Hello, everyone. I'm here making another video because it's been a while since I've done that. So here I am doing that. Can you tell I don't have a script for this part? Before getting into this little Kubrick video that I'm just kind of throwing together, it's not, the most elaborate video ever, but hopefully you'll like it. I don't know. Before getting into that, I just want to say thank you to all of the new subscribers and to all of the subscribers who continue to stick around and watch my stuff. Maybe no one's going to watch this. Maybe no one's sticking around. Maybe my channel, even though I just got a big subscriber bump, is just going to turn into a ghost town. I don't know. It's been fun. I mean, getting all these new subscribers, and I just hit 2,000 and now I'm approaching 4,000. That's awesome. Feels great. But I'm well aware that this train could just derail and crash into an oil refinery that's on a cliff at any time, and then that's okay. The ride has been fun thus far. I hope you continue to ride with me. So, all aboard. This isn't a sex thing. Anyway, keep leaving comments, keep doing all the things that you're doing. It feels great. Even when people say things to me with the intention of making me not feel great, it still feels great because I'm a masochist. That's not true. I'm not a masochist. I that's a lie. I like to lie because I'm a compulsive liar. That's also not true. I'm not really a compulsive liar. Although you're probably not going to believe that because let's get to the video. Stanley Kubrick was pretty influential in the art of filmmaking. I think everyone knows he was one of the greatest, if not the greatest, directors of all time. It's obvious that his impact on the medium was massive. In this video, I just want to dive into this notion a little deeper. Specifically, I want to show how Kubrick not only influenced auteurs and art films with his style and perfectionism, but how he, and many of his films, played a role in setting the standard for just about every genre of film. I'm really not being hyperbolic when I say every genre. No director's filmography is diverse as Kubrick's. Every film he's made has been immensely different from his others. He's done it all and mastered it all. And because of this, every genre of film, at least the genres that matter, are indebted to Kubrick's legacy. But let's get the obvious one out of the way. 2001. I think most people know how big of an impact 2001: A Space Odyssey had on the genre of science fiction. In fact, I think most would say the film changed all of filmmaking in general. It set the standard of how films could look and how stories could be told, and the types of stories that could be told. Saying the story of 2001 is ahead of its time is so much of an understatement. It's so obvious. I debated on whether or not I should even say it in this video. Now, obviously, I landed on the side of saying it because I just said it and because I must enjoy wasting your time, which I'm wasting even more of now by talking about wasting it. But actually, I'm glad this string of thought just came to be because it's exactly the sort of fourth wall breaking, meta, cerebral, maybe even postmodern style of content that the depth of 2001 was able to blaze the path for. And of course, 2001 also set the standard for visual effects and music usage and cinematography, but most importantly, it opened the door to an entire new way of viewing films. It forced viewers to think and feel about what they were seeing. There was no spoon feeding. It was a slow-moving, trippy mystery that the audience had no choice but to try and solve. And the best part was that no one really ever solved it. Except maybe me. Please watch it. Please watch. 2001 was the first high-concept, philosophically dense art film that was actually popular. It took the film viewing world by storm. And with this, it inspired an entire generation of filmmakers to follow. And honestly, it still is. I mean, it inspired me to make my first film last year, and I'm guessing it's going to keep inspiring artists forever. But like I said, I think most of this, the impact of 2001 on the sci-fi genre and all of that, I think it's obvious. So let's look at some of the film genres that Kubrick inspired that are maybe a little less little less known.
About these two other guys. You mean there's gonna be two other guys in on the deal, and we ain't gonna know who they are?
That's right. You don't know who they are, and they don't know who you are. That makes sense to you, doesn't it?
All the way back in 1956, Kubrick released his first movie that you could call a hit. It was called The Killing. It's known now as one of the best crime thrillers of all time. When I watch The Killing, I can't believe it's as old as it is. Because when I go back and watch movies from the 50s, they usually come across as cheesy. You know, this is fine though. I still love old movies, but there's definitely a level of unrealistic, fantasy to them that makes them feel like, sort of like theater. Now, not all old movies do this, and even many of the ones that do are still great and influential, but when I go back to watch old Kubrick films from the 50s and early 60s, they feel much more modern than they were. They feel gritty and grounded and thematic in the way a late 70s Scorsese movie does. And even late 70s Scorsese movies were ahead of their time, so what does that tell you? Well, it tells you that The Killing set a standard for crime thrillers. I can't imagine a Coen Brothers movie existing without the influence of The Killing. Really, if you haven't watched it, you should. You just can't believe how ahead of its time it is, which is, it's a trend you're going to notice for the films I discuss in this video. They're all very ahead of their time because they basically create the time to come, the era. You know what I'm saying. The following year, in 1957, Kubrick released Paths of Glory. No other war movie like it had ever been made. Paths of Glory doesn't portray war as only this noble and heroic undertaking. It shows the corrupt human nature that lies underneath all of it. It shows officers giving their men orders that they know to be suicidal, for the sake of their own reputation and careers. It's anti-war, I guess. It's not all propaganda, like most war films are. This war film questions the notions of glory and military rank and war itself. It shows the heroism not in winning the battle, but resisting those who want you to for the wrong reasons. It shows the real human cost of war, and by this I mean it's realistic, both emotionally and visually. It's not as realistic as Saving Private Ryan or something like that, but still, it without a doubt held all future war films to follow to a much higher standard. And, I mean, if it weren't for Paths of Glory, there probably wouldn't be a Saving Private Ryan anyway.
Slaves you were, and slaves you remain. But the terrible penalty of crucifixion has been set aside on the single condition that you identify the body or the living person of the slave called Spartacus.
I'm Spartacus!
I'm Spartacus.
Spartacus, released in 1960, is known as one of Kubrick's worst movies. It may not have set the standard for film quality, but it still found a way to blaze a few trails. What it's most remembered for now is its controversy. You see, it came out during the era of the Red Scare in Hollywood. Dalton Trumbo, a communist, wrote the screenplay. In it, he hid parallels between Rome and the story of Spartacus and America. This upset a lot of people, and it divided the country on whether or not art like this should be allowed. Whether the movie and its message were good is debatable, but what isn't debatable is the fact that this movie, like so many of Kubrick's others, made a massive impact on the film industry. Kubrick wasn't afraid of upsetting people. And to be an artist, I think this is a very important trait. In my opinion, Kubrick's boundary pushing in all his films, it must have been an inspiration for the Finchers and the Aronofskys and the Tarantinos to come. But when it comes to pushing boundaries, Kubrick was about to achieve his greatest feat. Of course, I'm talking about 1962's Lolita.
Take this tray up to Professor Humbert, and do not disturb him. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Jean, I'm very glad you called. Yes? Oh, Mona? What time? Well, I'm very glad you called me, Jean. Well, there's something very important we both have to talk about. That's a good idea. I'd rather not just...
Who is this?
Lolita.
Come in.
Here's your breakfast.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Good morning. Don't tell Mom, but I ate all your bacon.
You already know about Lolita. It covered subject matter that no other filmmaker would have dared to touch. How Kubrick pulled it off, though, was by making it dark and funny. And, naturally, as Kubrick does, he made it really, really good, like, technically speaking. But the movie isn't like its shit remake. It isn't really sexy at all. It's dramatic and funny. Lolita deals with the sort of sexual topics, or really just sexual topics in general, in a way that no movie had before it. It doesn't do it in a smutty or trashy way. It pokes fun at the characters and pulls the audience in with legitimately amazing acting and writing and drama. It doesn't use the debauchery of these characters to titillate. It uses it to critique and to make comedy. Think of this scene here, where our main character, Humbert, is trying to crawl into bed and hopefully seduce or assault his underage stepdaughter. This is some dark, adult stuff for the time, for any time, really. But just before this moment in the film, there's this hilarious sequence of Humbert trying to open up the spare cot for him to sleep in. He finally gets the cot made, but decides to make moves on Lolita anyways. But, alas, it doesn't work. After being denied, he returns to the cot for this to happen. Only Kubrick could take something this mature and dark and bookend it with such slapsticky moments. It's perfect comedy. There's no silly music or laugh tracks or stupid one-liners. This is a film that finds the dark humor in the simple interaction between characters. With Lolita, Kubrick once again pushed the boundaries of what films could do. He found a way to not only discuss sexuality on screen, but the reprehensible sides of sexuality as well. He changed what comedy movies were capable of. And then, just 2 years later, there was Dr. Strangelove, which is social commentary and comedy at its finest.
Gentlemen, you can't fight in here. This is the war room.
It's hysterical, but also thought-provoking. But again, just like Lolita, it never gets too ridiculous. In fact, it's an amazingly realistic movie. Every little knob and switch in the plane of the cockpit looked exactly as it did in real life. I mean, as you'd expect from a Kubrick production. And even though the story seems crazy at first, it's made very clear. I mean, the film finds enough excuses. It's smart enough to explain itself. It makes it clear that this actually could happen, no matter how funny it may be when it, happens on the screen.
Now then, Dimitri, you know how we've always talked about the possibility of something going wrong with the bomb. One of our base commanders, he went and did a silly thing. Well, I'll tell you what he did. He ordered his planes to attack your country. Well, listen, how do you think I feel about it? Can you imagine how I feel about it, Dimitri? Why do you think I'm calling you? Just to say hello? Of course I like to speak to you. Of course I like to say hello. Not now, but any time, Dimitri. I'm just calling up to tell you something terrible has happened. It's a friendly call. Of course it's a friendly call. I'm sorry too, Dimitri. I'm very sorry. All right, you're sorrier than I am. But I am sorry as well. I am as sorry as you are, Dimitri. Don't say that you're more sorry than I am, because I'm capable of being just as sorry as you are. So we're both sorry, all right? All right.
Dr. Strangelove is how you make a protest movie. In the way Lolita pushed the envelope in finding humor in our personal sex lives, Dr. Strangelove did so by holding a mirror to the biggest societal machines, such as governments, militaries. These two Kubrick movies changed what comedy films could be. Not only what they could show and discuss, but what they could say about human nature and society. And also just consider the fact that Peter Sellers played all of the main characters in Dr. Strangelove. Like, it's hilarious. I mean, so I guess we couldn't have Austin Powers if it weren't for Dr. Strangelove. I mean, I know there are better comedic examples, but I don't care. All right, I love Austin Powers. And I'm also getting sidetracked. Anyways, like the crime movie, like the war movie, like the science fiction movie, Kubrick also set the standard for the comedy movie. All the movies that come after 2001, I'm going to be brief in discussing them, because these are like the Kubrick movies that everybody knows. These are the ones that you probably, you already know what I'm going to say about them. For instance, in 1971, A Clockwork Orange pushed the envelope like no movie ever had before. You noticing a trend? The things that Kubrick showed with Clockwork Orange are things that would be risky to put in even modern movies. But he pulled it off, and he got away with it because he did it so well and he said something in the process. And then Barry Lyndon followed, a meticulously made period drama. While the film in general wasn't really anything groundbreaking in terms of genre, I at least think the cinematography was. It's one of Kubrick's lesser known films, and I guess I get why, but at the same time, I mean, I still see it as near perfection. You should watch it if you haven't. And then, of course, The Shining. The Shining, released in 1980. I mean, can you imagine a film like Hereditary or Midsommar existing today without The Shining? With The Shining, Kubrick showed that even horror movies could be smart. It makes me think that he dove into the horror genre and made one of the best horror movies of all time just to prove that he could. I don't like trying to say the word horror film. Horror. It's horror. Maybe it's just my Michigan accent. I don't know. I'm sure people on the internet will tell me. They tell me everything else I do wrong. But it's like horror. It's just like, it sounds like I'm saying horror film. Horror film. See, it sounded right when I tried to say it wrong. Anyway, Full Metal Jacket, that came out next. It examines the relationship between human nature and war in a way that no other war film ever has. Right now, I'm actually working on a huge project, like diving deep into Full Metal Jacket. It's going to be a big, thick boy of a video. So I'll save my thoughts for Full Metal Jacket for that video. So look out for that. His final movie, Eyes Wide Shut. It's a psychological drama / thriller that again, it's like no other. Now, is it as groundbreaking as Lolita or Paths of Glory? No. But by this point in his career, Kubrick had already set the standard for every genre of film, so I don't know what else we could have expected from him. But then again, I really wish he, wouldn't have died during the post-production of Eyes Wide Shut, because he was working on AI at the time that Steven Spielberg ended up picking up after Kubrick died. I mean, God only knows how amazing and groundbreaking AI would have also been if Kubrick had been at the helm. But wishing for more Kubrick, it just feels greedy to me. He gifted us with films that were so much higher in quality than their contenders that he was able to set the standard for war films, comedies, crime thrillers, science fiction, and even horror. And I think most impressive of all is that he was able to examine and question different aspects of human nature in every genre he explored. Whether they were making you laugh or cry, his films made you think and feel things. His absence has left a vacancy in filmmaking that will probably never be filled in. This is sad, but I think missing him now is far superior to having nothing to miss at all. Yeah, it sucks that he's not here making any more movies, but at least we have the movies that he made. That's what I'm trying to say. And also what I'm trying to say, if you think the film industry right now is a hellscape, just imagine how it would be without Kubrick's impact. Just imagine. Can I fanboy any harder? Yes, I can. Just you wait. Just you wait. I mean, please, I'm gonna make more videos. I'm working on other videos. Just